What do you think AI किस तरह से मार्केट को डिसरप्ट करेगा?
हंगामा चल रहा है कि नौकरी जाएंगी, ये जाएगा, वो
Calculators
उस जमाने पे कंप्यूटर्स पे था
हाँ.
कि नौकरी जाएंगी. You know, I feel as long as I can create jobs, I have a duty to do.
इंडिया में जिस लेवल पे इंजीनियर्स क्रिएट किए जा रहे हैं,
There is no training, there is no quality.
There's no similar scope in today's India, is it? India had risk takers back then.
Oh yeah, there are going to be people who will feel threatened.
Who is going to be the next market leader?
The next one is very obvious. It's going to be.
ये एंटरप्रेन्योर शब्द जितना आज ट्रेंडिंग है ना, उतना ही आज से 40-50 साल पहले कोई जानता भी नहीं था कि एंटरप्रेन्योर होता क्या है. लोग या तो जॉब समझते थे या फिर बिजनेसमैन. तो अगर हम 1960, 1970s की बात करें तो जब कंप्यूटर्स, माइक्रोचिप्स नए मार्केट में आए थे, तब बहुत सारे लोगों ने आईटी सेक्टर से अपना किस्मत, अपना फॉर्चून बनाया था. स्पेशली इंडिया में उसी दौरान बहुत सारी टेक कंपनीज एस्टैब्लिश हुई थी, जिन्हें आज हम एज अ टेक जायंट्स भी जानते हैं. और आज के एपिसोड में हम आपको 40-50 साल पीछे फ्लैशबैक में लेके जाएंगे, क्योंकि आज के हमारे गेस्ट अपना 5 दशक से ज़्यादा का बिजनेस एक्सपीरियंस, अपनी एक्सपर्टीज, स्किल्स, इंजीनियरिंग, एम्प्लॉयमेंट और बिजनेस वर्ल्ड से रिलेटेड बहुत सारी बातें हमारे साथ शेयर करने वाले. प्रेजेंटिंग यू द को-फाउंडर ऑफ HCL, CEO ऑफ हेडस्ट्रॉन्ग, चेयरमैन ऑफ मैजिक सॉफ्टवेयर्स, मिस्टर अर्जुन मल्होत्रा, ओनली ऑन द रिच, पावर्ड बाय Entrepreneurial, द मोस्ट प्रीमियम डिजिटल यूनिवर्सिटी.
तो सर बहुत बहुत स्वागत है आपका हमारे प्लेटफॉर्म पे. एंड आई एम फीलिंग प्रिविलेज्ड कि मुझे मौका मिला आपके साथ बैठने का और आपसे सवाल करने का.
Not at all. My pleasure.
Thank you so much. The first question that I want to ask you is कि at this age, what is driving you to work?
You know, it's something I've been asked a lot of times.
Yes.
You know, I feel as long as I can create jobs, I have a duty to work. I have a duty to do that. It's something this country needs. And so that's what motivates me.
Nice.
The day I think I can't create jobs, then I'll retire.
Wow. How this all started? एकदम जर्नी की अगर शुरुआत पे बात करें तो कुछ इंस्पिरेशन था या कुछ इंसिडेंटल था, या कैसे आपने ये सब कुछ शुरू कैसे किया एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप की जर्नी पे? बैक देन उस टाइम पे अपना बिजनेस शुरू करना, यू आर द फर्स्ट जनरेशन एंटरप्रेन्योर, इज इट? Nobody had an experience of business.
Yes.
तो कैसे शुरू किया, क्या किया?
No, तो हम DCM में काम करते थे. DCM decided to get into electronics. I was one of the few electronics engineers there. So I got responsibility that was disproportionate to my experience. 1 year out of college, I was asked to look after national sales for a new product.
All right.
तो उस वक्त, and that time electronics chips अभी आ रही थी, स्पेशली कैलकुलेटर चिप्स. तो शुरू में हमने इलेक्ट्रॉनिक कैलकुलेटर्स बनाए, फिर इट बिकेम अ कॉटेज इंडस्ट्री. तो टू डिफरेंशिएट आवरसेल्व्स वी हैड टू डू R&D टू मेक प्रोडक्ट्स दैट वर स्पेसिफिक फॉर मार्केट्स एंड देन चार्ज अ प्रीमियम बिकॉज द ओवरहेड्स आर हाई. तो हमने क्या किया, R&D के थ्रू प्रोग्रामेबल कैलकुलेटर्स बनाए और फिर हमने कंप्यूटर भी डिज़ाइन किया. But वो ज़माना था in the mid-70s.
Yes.
India was a socialist country. And we had an act called the Monopolies and Restrictive Trade Practices Act.
अच्छा.
DCM was the 4th largest private sector company in this country on revenue at that time.
Okay.
So they were advised not to go into computers because they would fall foul of the government. And in all fairness, company की turnover थी 250 crore. इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स की टर्नओवर थी 2 करोड़ से थोड़ा कम, 1.72 करोड़. तो they weren't going to change their whole policy for this small unit. So a number of us believed that microprocessors, which were just coming out, were going to change the world. And so 6 of us decided to leave with the belief that microprocessors would change the world. That was the motivation.
आज भले ही इस कंपनी का छोटा यूनिट है, बट एक टाइम पे बहुत बड़ा बनने वाला है.
तो हम 6 जो काम करते थे DCM डेटा प्रोडक्ट्स में
जी,
हमने एक साथ छोड़ दिया और कंपनी शुरू की माइक्रोकॉम. शुरू में पैसे तो नहीं थे, बिजनेस प्लान भी नहीं था. तो हमने सोचा कैलकुलेटर बना के बेच के पैसे बनाएंगे, फिर उसको इन्वेस्ट करेंगे R&D में कंप्यूटर बनाने के लिए. We were quite lucky टेलीविस्टा टेलीविजन कंपनी होती थी।
टेलीविस्टा,
हाँ, वेद लूथरा उनके सीएमडी होते थे
जी।
वो कैलकुलेटर बनाते थे बट उनसे बिकती नहीं थी कैलकुलेटर,
मार्केटिंग नहीं कर पा रहे थे।
तो उन्होंने हमसे बात की कि हम कैलकुलेटर बनाते हैं, आप बेचो, हम प्रॉफिट 50-50 डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करेंगे और हम आपको 90 डेज का क्रेडिट देंगे।
अच्छा।
तो हमारी फंडिंग भी हो गई, प्रोडक्ट भी मिल गया, मार्केट तो हमें पता था कैलकुलेटर का। तो हमने अक्टूबर 15, 1975 में कंपनी शुरू की, माइक्रोकॉम्प। ये मेरी नानी के घर में बरसाती में, यहाँ 143 गोल्फ लिंक्स में हमने कंपनी शुरू की। और फिर 3 महीनों में पैसे बना लिए तो R&D पे इन्वेस्ट करना शुरू कर दिया, राइट। फिर पता लगा कि लाइसेंसेस रिजर्व थे स्टेट और पब्लिक सेक्टर के लिए।
ओके।
तो हमने यूपी इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स कॉरपोरेशन के साथ जॉइंट सेक्टर कंपनी बनाई, उसको हिंदुस्तान कंप्यूटर्स लिमिटेड नाम से कंपनी बनाई, HCL। और वो HCL आज HCL के नाम से जाना जाती। You know her, you know it as HCL today.
Everybody knows it.
But that is how it started. It was 26% UP Electronics, 25% promoters, and 49% public. It was supposed to be public, but total equity 20 लाख थी। तो 9.8 lakhs public जाने के लिए पैसे उससे ज़्यादा लगते to go public. So ultimately the promoters held 74%. And then over time we bought back 16%. And then much later we bought back the balance 10%. उसकी भी कहानी है। जब हमने 10% वापस लेना था, because UP Electronics is supposed to encourage companies, and they're not supposed to stay as equity holders throughout.
Correct.
So we needed 1.27 crores to buy back the 10%.
10%.
और वो पैसे नहीं थे हमारे पास।
हाँ.
So we talked to, I remember Mr. SM Basu शायद नाम था, he was मैनेजिंग डायरेक्टर ऑफ SBI कैपिटल।
ओके।
तो उनसे बात करी कि आप अगर हमको लोन देंगे उस जमाने में 18% इंटरेस्ट पे, तो वी विल बाय बैक आवर शेयर्स एंड गिव इट टू आवर एम्प्लॉइज एज बोनस, परफॉर्मेंस बोनस एट द एंड ऑफ द ईयर ओवर अ पीरियड ऑफ इयर्स, एंड एवरी ईयर द वैल्यू ऑफ द स्टॉक विल बी गोइंग अप बाय 18% टू द एम्प्लॉइज। So आज आप उसको stock options के नाम से जानते हो। We didn't know that at that time, but that's what we ended up doing. So HCL, we did a lot of things that today are fairly standard, but were innovative, which we didn't realize were innovative. We did them because that's how we wanted. We had to get it done, and so
Nice. You found a way. अगर कहीं पर नहीं दिख रहा है वे, तो जो चीज़ नहीं भी एग्जिस्ट करती है उसका नाम आपको पता नहीं था, जैसे ESOPs बोलते हैं ना इसको, एम्प्लॉइज को आप शेयर्स देते हैं, तो वो चीज़ उस टाइम पे एग्जिस्ट नहीं करती थी, बट यू फाउंड अ वे कि कैसे क्या करना है।
एंड HCL did that in a lot of things. I don't think in our mind nothing was impossible.
Nothing was impossible.
That's how we looked
the core.
at it. हाँ. So आपको एक और कहानी बताऊं मैं, जब हमने अपनी मशीन बनाई 8-bit commercial machine HCL 8C, so the model was we used to take 30% advance, and once the machine was ready, the customer would come to the factory, he would inspect the machine, he would give us a check for 70%, we would then pack the machine and ship it to him.
All right.
That was the plan.
Before manufacturing the machine, you used to take 30%
advance,
then manufactured, then he'll come and 70% और उसके बाद लेके
because 30% used to cover a bill of material.
Correct.
So you got to remember, we bootstrapped the company.
Yes.
So ऐसे तो VC वगैरह तो
नहीं होते थे।
तो our first customer, Jyoti Sagar from Remfree and Son, he came, to take delivery. He showed him the machine. He said, very good. We were packing it. When someone in the factory said कि आपने excise दिया है कि नहीं, कि ये excise क्या चीज़ है? Because we were very naive in those days. He said, India has a production tax. If you produce anything, you've got to pay tax. तो हमने कहा ठीक है, हमने एक्साइज वाले को बुलाया, इंस्पेक्टर को बुलाया कि भैया बताओ क्या एक्साइज देना है। तो he said, so because there were different ways, if a transformer was 4 annas per kilo excise, otherwise it was ad valorem, that a percentage of the value of the machine.
Okay.
He looked through the whole Excise manual. He couldn't see any microprocessor, mini computer, microcomputer. There was no notification.
था ही नहीं.
उसने कहा, I can't tell you what to do. Said, भाई क्या करें, हमने कस्टमर को मशीन देनी है. तो he said, ऐसे है, आप एक चिट्ठी लिखिए अपने एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव मिनिस्ट्री को. वो चिट्ठी लिखेंगे फाइनेंस मिनिस्ट्री को और फाइनेंस मिनिस्ट्री नोटिफिकेशन देगी. उस बेसिस पे आप दे देना अपना एक्साइज. मैंने कहा यार देखो, 2 मिनिस्ट्री को चिट्ठी जाएंगी, ये 4-5 महीने तो लग ही जाएंगे. तो ही से नहीं, ऐसे है, ये गवर्नमेंट के लिए रेवेन्यू जनरेटिंग है, वो 1 दिन में करेंगे. सो डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स हैड जस्ट बीन फॉर्म्ड एंड सो वी फिक्स्ड अ टाइम. उस वक्त सैटरडे हाफ डे वर्क होता था. So I remember on a Saturday morning, we went and did a full presentation to Department of Electronics and said, please write a letter to the Finance Ministry. The answer we got was the microprocessor policy has still not been decided. We expect it to take 4 years. So please come back 4 years later and then we'll write the letter.
Oh.
So of course, very disappointed, upset. All of us went home. All of us took that Excise manual के weekend पे पढ़ते हैं, जरा हमको दिख जाए कहीं.
समझते हैं.
तो import substitution used to be a big thing in India because foreign exchange shortage था. We used to import electromechanical accounting invoicing machine from East Germany, Robotron electromechanical accounting invoicing machine.
All right.
उसकी एक picture थी. There was a keyboard, there was a small display and there was a printer. And so we called the excise inspector. उसको वो पिक्चर दिखाया, उसको अपनी मशीन दिखाई. He said, हाँ वही चीज़ है.
वही चीज़ है.
So we actually cleared our machines out as accounting invoicing machines, our computers out as accounting invoicing machines for 4 years. The microprocessor policy took 4 years. We even sold one machine to Department of Electronics. So that was what life was like in those days.
My God. So when the policy was not there, you read the entire manual, you found out, hats off. That's how entrepreneurs work. मतलब कहते हैं ना, सीधी उंगली से घी ना निकली तो आपको उंगली टेढ़ी करनी चाहिए.
You got to find a way, and you got to find a legal way. That's
yes, legal way. Nice. So sir, back in 1975, you started doing all these, and right now you can see the startup industry, the startup ecosystem, you can say, entrepreneurs, ये boom पे हैं अभी पिछले 10 सालों से. बहुत ज़्यादा सुनने में भी आ रहा है, बहुत सारे फंडिंग्स भी मिलती है. How you as an entrepreneur have been evolved yourself leadership के मामले में, या प्रॉब्लम्स को किस नज़र से देखते हो अब आप, उस टाइम पे कैसे चलता था और अभी कैसे मैनेजमेंट चलती है, थोड़ा सा शिफ्ट के बारे में बताएंगे.
तो उस ज़माने में हमारा बजट हर एक साल आता था. एवरी ईयर देयर यूज्ड टू बी अ चेंज, सो यू कुडंट लॉन्ग टर्म प्लानिंग नहीं कर सकते थे. क्योंकि एवरी ईयर यू हैड टू चेंज योर गेम प्लान बेस्ड ऑन द बजट. उसकी भी कहानी बताऊंगा मैं एक आपको. Now there is a little more. They are giving 5-year projection. While the budget comes every year, there are no major changes. And let me explain. So when we started making computers, the import duty on components was 140%.
140%?
140% of the value.
God.
ठीक है. Because computers were seen as a luxury, like air conditioners and things like that.
10,000 की चीज बनी है तो 24,000 की बिकेगी लगभग.
नहीं, 10,000 अगर आपका एक पार्ट 10,000 का है, तो उस पे 14,000 आपको ड्यूटी देनी.
ड्यूटी देना मतलब 24,000 रुपए का
हमारा कॉस्ट फिर 24,000. So what happened was, and computers unions objected to it. जैसे आज आपका AI पे हंगामा चल रहा है कि नौकरी जाएंगी, ये जाएगा, वो उस जमाने पे कंप्यूटर्स पे था कि नौकरी जाएंगी. तो the banks did not buy computers for many years. I mean, PC आ गया, PC XT आ गया, PC जब 80 आया, the 286, then the banks decided that they needed these machines.
बैंक्स ये सोच रहा था कि हमारा कैशियर की जॉब चली जाएगी और
जो भी यूनियंस कह रहे थे
जॉब जाएंगी. ठीक है.
But then they realized the efficiency that these machines can get. So they said we'll buy machines, computers, but we will not call them computers. They were called ALPMs, Advanced Ledger Posting Machines.
Okay.
Right, ALPMs. तो उन्होंने लिए, and banks buy big because their volume. So they bought 2,000 of these, and they decided that they will, because of service, they'll buy it from two companies. 60% was from HCL, 40% was from a company called Usha Computers.
Okay.
विनय राय वगैरह यहाँ दिल्ली में है
जी.
Now Usha Computers decided कि मैं आउटसाइड मार्केट में क्यों बेचूं, ओवरहेड क्यों लूं, मैं बैंक्स में बेचता हूँ, वहाँ पे ओवरहेड, सेल्स ओवरहेड तो है नहीं. तो they closed the other part of the business and just sold to banks. To encourage sales to banks, because they were all public sector banks mainly, the government reduced the import duty on memories from 140% to 25%.
Okay.
अब क्या हुआ, बैंक्स ने 2000 ALPMs लिए, उसके बाद they said pause, let's see impact क्या है, and then we'll buy more. तो उषा तो बंद हो गया because they had no other sale.
उन्होंने अपना सारा वो विंग क्लोज कर दिया था वैसे.
ठीक है, तो उनको जो फैक्ट्री थी, पार्ट्स वगैरह थे, उन्होंने बंद कर दिया. They shut the factory. A year later, government decided कि बैंक्स तो नहीं ले रहे हैं कंप्यूटर, हम रेवेन्यू क्यों लूज कर रहे हैं, तो the duty on computer on memory chips went back to 140%. अब उषा ने मेमोरी चिप्स 25% पे लिए हुए थे, उन्होंने मार्केट में बेचे 140 पे, पैसे बनाए. In fact, we felt very bad because they made more money than we did in that. So that was the business in those. That just to give you an idea of how business used to run in those days. It's very different to the way it is today.
Getting it. Government was so active that time, is it?
It was very active.
Very active.
Very active.
कि जैसे ही कहीं से पैसा दिख रहा है तो तुरंत एक्साइज ड्यूटी तुरंत शिफ्ट हो रही है, कम हो रही है, ज़्यादा हो रही है.
Yeah, customs. It used to be, in fact, I always say that the closest I came to become a smuggler was when the government decided semiconductor complex used to make 16K DRAMs, memory chips.
ठीक है.
16K. Market had 64K had come out. Today it's 256K. But in that time 64K had come out. And technically if I had to make a computer with 16K RAMs, my computer would be much larger. So the budget talk was that we'll ban import of 64K because wo semiconductor complex we have to support them. Why I'm saying then all I had to do was go to Singapore with a briefcase, get a briefcase of DRAMs once a quarter and run our business. Not that it was going to happen. But Professor Dr. Sheshagiri, who was Director General of NIC and Secretary level, he persuaded them that look, the watches and clocks will consume their entire production. So don't stop the import of 64K DRAMs. So ये सब होता था उस ज़माने.
बहुत ज़बरदस्त.
हेलो, आई नो इस पॉडकास्ट को देखने में आपको बहुत मजा आ रहा है, काफी कुछ नया सीखने को भी मिल रहा होगा, तभी आप इस पॉडकास्ट को यहाँ तक देख रहे हो. इस पॉडकास्ट के बदले में मैं आपसे एक छोटी सी रिक्वेस्ट कर रहा हूँ कि ये जो सब्सक्राइब का बटन है इसे आप क्लिक कर सकते हैं, ताकि हमारा परिवार बहुत ज्यादा बड़ा होगा और जब कभी भी हम किसी बड़े गेस्ट को इन्वाइट करना चाहेंगे अपने प्लेटफॉर्म पे तो उनको हम बता सकते हैं कि इतने सारे लोग हैं जो आपको सुनना चाहते हैं, आपसे कुछ नया सीखना चाहते हैं. और अगर आपको इस पॉडकास्ट से थोड़ी सी भी लर्निंग मिली है, कुछ नया सीखा है आपने, आपके माइंड का लेवल थोड़ा बढ़ा है, तो इसको शेयर करना बिल्कुल मत भूलना और लाइक करके मुझे इंस्पायर जरूर करना, ताकि मैं इस तरह के और भी पॉडकास्ट आपके लिए लेके आता रहूं. थैंक यू सो मच. लेट्स गेट बैक टू द पॉडकास्ट.
बूटस्ट्रैप भी चलाया आपने पूरा अपना बिजनेस. कब तक बूटस्ट्रैप रहे थे आप?
For 20 years.
20 years you've been bootstrapped.
Yeah, I'll give you another story. So when we started the company, we put all our money together and we had 1,75,000.
That's it.
So out
Six
of that,
people. Six people.
Because पैसा, we all working, Provident Fund, ये वो, और क्या पैसा.
रिस्क भी बहुत जबरदस्त रहा होगा कि हम सब कुछ छोड़ छाड़ के.
नहीं, my mother, she said, I'll give you whatever's in my checking account, but I'm not going to take a loan from my Provident Fund, which I agree with her. तो क्या हुआ कि you had to operate in Bombay. Bombay was the big market. 60% of India's taxes came out of Bombay in those days. Ab Bombay mein you can't rent a space, so you have to buy. So out of the 1,75,000, 1,25,000 went to buy an office in Bombay.
My God.
So the working capital was only 50,000 rupees. 10 years later, the company was doing well. We had 2,000 people, all that stuff. So we got together, I remember, in Udaipur to celebrate and all. And we looked back. Our return from that 125 investment in real estate in Bombay was better than the return from the 50,000 that we had put into the computer business.
Is it?
So India again in those days, that was life.
Huge.
I remember discussing that and saying, except that, you were paying salaries for 2,000 people and all that stuff. That's different. But if I look at return to the shareholder,
yes.
It was, my real estate return was better than.
There's no scope, there's no similar scope in today's India, is it?
No, now the market has changed. It's
Everything
now
has changed.
Also the people sort of accept, that time electronics and computers were not considered a job that parents and uncles and aunts wanted their children to have. They would prefer working for Hindustan Levers, Larsen and Toubro, companies like that.
Construction company, FMCG
the
companies.
big companies, yeah.
Yes.
Computers was a risk.
Risk.
And that's why the people who came into computers in the early days, a lot of ex-HCL people from the early days have become CEOs of multiple companies because they were the risk takers. They took a risk getting into this business. It was a risky business. I remember when we went in 76 to recruit at IIM Calcutta, when we gave the pre-placement talk, we said that this is not a job because we don't know if the company will be there 1 year from now. It's an adventure.
Nice.
But in 1 year, you will learn more than what you'll learn anywhere else.
Imagine a founder saying to the people whom he is about to hire, we don't know where's the future heading. But if you are a risk taker, come along the way and we'll have fun.
And out of the, I think 120 people or whatever the number there in IIM Cal, 110 people applied for that.
Oh, India had risk takers back then.
Oh yeah, no, everyone. I mean, it's also how you motivate people and what you tell them. And I mean, there was a lot of excitement about this whole new business and,
What do you think, sir? That time, जब IT sector was seen as like with a pessimistic view कि शायद नहीं चलेगी और लोगों ने रिवॉल्यूशन करा उसके अगेंस्ट कि हम नहीं कर रहे, क्रांति करी. आज के टाइम पे भी अच्छा पानी का जब मार्केट आया था, बिस्लेरी वांटेड कि हम पानी बेचेंगे इंडिया में, तो उसके अगेंस्ट भी बातें हुई थी कि ऐसे कैसे देश में गंगा जैसी नदी है और उसमें तुम पानी बेचोगे, पानी पिलाना धर्म है हमें यहाँ पे. सिमिलरली अभी एआई के लिए ये सारी चीज़ें हो रही हैं. व्हाट डू यू थिंक एआई किस तरह से मार्केट को डिसरप्ट करेगा और क्या सच में जॉब्स और तगड़े लेवल पे जाएंगी?
अच्छा, आप अगर मेरे से पूछिए तो द सिचुएशन is very similar to what happened with computers. Everyone thought computers will replace jobs. But today, no one who doesn't know computers can get a good job.
Correct.
Right?
He has to know computers, yes.
Same thing will happen with AI. AI, forget initially ऊपर नीचे थोड़ा जाएगा, but ultimately, if you know how to use AI or use AI platforms, you will have a job. And there will be more jobs because AI now allows you to analyze much more data than what you could do today. So there's so much more to be done, so much more analysis, so much more work that can be done. Right? It'll just make it more, there are going to be people who'll feel threatened. Like today, let's take a simple thing like radiology. Agar aap give 1 million X-rays to an AI system with ML and get it to learn kahan problem hai. Tomorrow you give it an X-ray, it'll point out 6-7 likely places where you're going to see a problem.
तुरंत बता देगा आपको इतने ज़्यादा.
So a good radiologist is probably be able to hold 10,000 X-rays in his head.
Correct.
Whereas an AI system can do it in millions.
Millions, yes.
And so what will happen is instead of my using my brains to see where, I will get that first interpretation and then use the. So it's like, आजकल जैसे people ask me to come and give a talk. What I do is I go to either Bard, which is now Gemini, or ChatGPT and ask them, वो मेरे को 10 point देता है. then I look at those 10 points and I either change them or add some more points.
Mix it up with your experience.
Yeah,
and
so it allows my basic thinking, it helps me. I then only have to top up that thinking, not do that basic because someone's already done it, it's available, you know. So और आपने कंप्यूटर की उसकी बात करी तो I'll give you another story. I'm sorry.
Please. I'm very much interested in your stories.
You know, when we went to Singapore as pioneers in computer manufacturing.
Okay.
I don't know how many people know that, but HCL had pioneering status in Singapore to manufacture computers. But the plan was not to. We were a 3 crore company at that time when we went to Singapore because we wanted to be a small fish in a big pond, not a big fish in a small pond, thinking that the world is our. So there we said, we'll sell solutions. तो हम क्या करते थे कि we used to ask people आपका problem क्या है, we'd analyze it, send the details to Madras because Madras had 3 flights a week. दिल्ली से direct flight नहीं था उस समय. और Madras में we had set up what we called SED, Software Export Division, and we would write the program, put it on a floppy and send the floppies back to Singapore.
Okay.
That was the plan.
Okay.
And that's how it was working. Except that software was not considered an industry. It was considered a trade, and it came under the Shops and Establishment Act.
All right.
Not the Companies Act. And Shops and Establishment Act makes you, at least in those days, you had to maintain 12 registers.
Okay.
And we were just not used to it. I mean, Companies Act is different.
Yes. That's a different task.
So Shiv Nada, who was the chairman, he is from Tamil Nadu, and he said, look, I know people there politically and otherwise, and I will try and talk to them to classify software as an industry.
Okay.
So ये बात हो रही थी.
Okay.
In the meanwhile, a classmate of mine and a good friend, Kiran Seth, had started something called Speak Meke.
Okay.
आपने Speak Meke सुना होगा नाम. Society
Speak Meke, yes.
You know, Society for the Promotion of Indian Classical Music and Culture Amongst Youth. And I was one of the founders of Speak Meke, which is part of my claim to fame also. So he wanted some help in publicizing it.
Okay.
So I used to have a big advertising budget in HCL because every first Monday of every month in every major newspaper in the country, we used to have a full page ad.
Nice.
You know. And so I talked to the advertising agency and said, मेरे को 1 column centimeter आपको Hindustan Times or Times of India Delhi में take out an ad saying Debu Chatterjee is performing at Lady Shri Ram College 4 o'clock on this date. Something, Speak Meke ad courtesy Hindustan Computers Limited. यही कर रहे थे हम. I was trying to help Kiran get this thing publicized. क्या हुआ एक दिन Shiv comes to me and he says, what is this Speak Meke? And I thought, oh, मेरी quote unquote चोरी पकड़ी गई kind of thing. So I asked him क्या हुआ? He said, we've got software cleared as an industry. I said, how did that happen after 5-6 months? He said the people in Tamil Nadu, the IS, and they saw these ads and they said, if the company can do this, it has a soul, so we'll take your word for it.
Oh.
And think of what software is today. You know, it's some, 7-9% of our GDP.
It's an entire big industry currently.
So it's some of the history of what happened in this whole industry as we progressed.
We are talking to the industry developer, the industry creator.
No, I was lucky to be there when it started. So.
Yes. So what do you think? The schools and the colleges and the universities should adopt artificial intelligence as their curriculum as soon as possible?
They're doing that already. Most of them are doing it. I know the IITs definitely and the NITs are definitely doing it. They've been doing it for a while. It's been part of the computer science curricula for a while. It just didn't have applications.
Yes.
Yeah, the concept existed. But what I've noticed in a number of private universities, I know a couple of people who have run courses for them because they may not be able to find faculty and stuff like that.
Correct.
To come in because आजकल बहुत shortage है.
बहुत shortage है. यहाँ पे सिखाएगा कौन? Point ये है. 1980s के टाइम पे सर इंजीनियर्स बहुत ज़्यादा थे और उनकी ज़रूरत भी थी, उनका कंजम्पशन भी था इंडियन मार्केट को, इंडियन इकोनॉमी को बहुत बूस्ट मिला उससे. बट आज के टाइम पे एज यू मस्ट हैव सीन एंड आई एम श्योर आपको पहले भी किसी ना किसी ने ज़रूर पूछा होगा दैट इंडिया में जिस लेवल पे इंजीनियर्स क्रिएट किए जा रहे हैं उस लेवल पे कंजम्पशन है नहीं. तो इज देयर द सैचुरेशन ऑफ इंजीनियर्स इन द मार्केट और व्हाट डू यू थिंक कि बाहर जाना चाहिए अच्छे लेवल पे इंजीनियरिंग करके?
So there is an excess of engineers and MBA students today in India. That is true.
That is true.
The problem is not all of them are employable.
And what's that factor which is not making them like employable?
I think there are lots of colleges that are not doing justice to
the engineering subject.
That teaching, to disseminating knowledge, basically.
Yes.
So what is starting to happen is lot of what we call finishing schools are coming up. Again, the best example I can give you is in the old days, power used to be a real problem.
Yes.
Power cuts used to happen all the time, and everyone had generators in the house.
Yes.
Even we have a generator, right? The thing is, if you looked at it from a country point of view, the money people spent on generators, if we could invest that in infrastructure, power would be available for everyone, right? अब हमारा प्रॉब्लम आईटी इंडस्ट्री में भी यही है कि वो इंजीनियर तो आ रहे हैं, but I have to take them through a finishing school to make them employable. And the cost of doing that is more than if they were really trained properly in the college itself. So what's starting to happen is a lot of companies are now adopting colleges and saying,
हम देंगे तुम्हारी फंडिंग, तुम सिखाओ सही से.
Funding नहीं, we'll tell you the curricula of what to teach so that that person comes to me fully cooked. I don't have to spend 3 months, 6 months salary in
cooking them.
In doing the initiation.
Yes.
So and for the college it's very good. Okay, employability हो जाती है. So it's a win-win.
Nice.
It's starting to happen.
Nice. This is a sort of something that we have planned to do, right? Yesterday itself, day before yesterday, we were planning to do this. I'll tell you more about what we exactly do. And anyways, so you have said कि अभी उस लेवल पे पढ़ाना पड़ेगा बच्चों को so that they get employable. और अगर नहीं सही तरीके की एजुकेशन है तो फिर इंजीनियरिंग छोड़ के कुछ और कर लो. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
Nice. अच्छा, what do you say, sir? Skills are also the problem in the Indian market, is it?
Massive. There's a shortage. Actually, if you look at I think it's a CII report.
Yeah.
It said that we will have 6 million extra engineers and MBAs in the next 5 years, till 2025.
6 million?
6 million extra.
Extra?
Right? Yeah. That people who we don't need from a job creation point of view. We will have probably 20 odd million, 25 million, some number of unemployed, uneducated unemployed. But there's a shortage of 13 million people in skilling, in the skill area. So that's why the government has also taken a major initiative, NSDC, and doing skilling. And there are lots of NGOs and others who are spending time on skilling.
What are the skills you believe are the most prominent skills to be able to have, competitive advantage in the market?
Nursing is one. Electrician, car mechanics, or you name it. Plumbers, anything that, and they've got to be skilled. I mean, there have to be some standards. Today we don't have any standard. And in fact, आजकल क्या होता है, आप कोई चीज रिपेयर कराओ, 1 हफ्ते 2 हफ्ते बाद उसको फिर से
रिपेयर कराओ, क्योंकि वो जानबूझ के ऐसा करके जाता है.
नहीं, they don't know how to do it any better. There is no training, there is no quality, there's no, like after all, when you do education, you get a degree, there's certain qualification. What is there? People do a course and, it's like, again, when we started computers, people would come to us with a certificate, but they had no idea what programming was. But certificate था उनके पास कि हमने programming की हुई है. That's what motivated us to start NIT. Because NIT, the whole idea was, let me train people and authentically give them training, not just give them a certificate. So that's the whole idea of doing skilling today. In fact, one of the IIT alumni organizations called PARFI, Pan IITians Action for India, they're doing an amazing job. They've just done something at Jharkhand,
Okay.
which now multiple states want them to replicate. They've just signed an MOU with Madhya Pradesh. They've started work there. UP, Assam, Bihar are talking to them. Number of other states. It's just we have to scale. We can't scale that quickly, but we need to do that. But they have a model where they skill and guarantee you a job. So they work with industry, work here, they skill and you
Guarantee you the job.
guaranteed a job. After
That's the best part. One more question comes here in my mind is, I have somewhere read the strategy of Coca-Cola. What they did was they adopted schools, they gave them the funds, and उसके बाद उन्होंने कैंटीन में अपना एक बड़ा सा वो रख दिया, उसमें कोका कोला की कैन रख दी. एंड द फिलोसफी द मोरल ऑफ द स्टोरी वाज कि बच्चा जैसे ही पिएगा, जितनी छोटी एज में उसको स्वीट की आदत लग जाएगी और जिस लेवल का वो लाइफ लॉन्ग उतना उनका कंज्यूमर बना रहेगा.
राइट.
तो व्हाट डू यू थिंक, अगर यही सारी चीज़ें एक कॉलेज लेवल पे ना करके बिल्कुल स्कूल के लेवल पे एंड प्री एलिमेंट्री टाइम पे 5th क्लास 6th क्लास में अगर करने लग जाएं, तो दिस वुड बी मोर बेनिफिशियल स्किल्स बेसिकली.
I think so. What's already happening, I have a 2.5-year-old grandchild. Instead of giving him a pacifier, आजकल उसको स्क्रीन पे कुछ दिखा देते हैं.
करेक्ट.
And kids nowadays, when you see them flying, without the tablet, they're completely lost. Right? Earlier, you had to do lots of things. Now it's the simplest thing, and you're starting to see those changes happen. They will happen. You can't stop it.
No.
I in fact would say not skilling, but what we should do is, like the Japanese, we should get children to clean their table when they leave school in the evening, so they come to a clean table when they come in the morning. We should teach healthcare to kids in school and college so that people know how to look after their own health, so that there's less stress on the healthcare system,
Correct.
hospitals and stuff. Right. And I think we have to I know Delhi state, the problem is 80,000 children every year drop out of high school, and 120,000 children graduate from high school but can't get into college. So if I can find a job, a skill-based job for those 200,000 students every year, Delhi will solve its employability problem. Going forward, forget the hair to hair past ka. So, and that 200,000 is a manageable thing, and we can plan it over X years, 3, 4, 5 years. With a plan, we can get it done. And Delhi's started a skills university and stuff like that. And we are looking at industries which are value add. Because my basic wage in Delhi is higher than Haryana or UP.
Correct.
So I have to look at a value add industry where I can get these people employed, and I train them so that they are relevant to that industry. So that's the model that we'll have to follow.
Next big disruption, if I talk about biggest disruption in the tech market, what do you think? कौन सी company या कौन सी industry या क्या होने वाला है? Who is going to be the next market leader?
So the next one is very obvious. It's going to be biotech, the biomed, the medicine area. And you're already seeing genetic stuff coming in. That is going to be the next big one. In fact, if I was in college today, that is the area I would choose as a career. Yeah, the whole biotech, biomedical, genetics, that whole area of medicine. So medicine, from being what it is today, will become personalized. It's your DNA. It'll go back to the old Indian system where it was personalized.
Stem cell is that
whole, it's all a part. It's all a part of that. Earlier, when you went to a Ved, he looked at you and you got a different medicine or combination of chemicals than he got, right? Based on your history, and he would talk to you for a while, and he knew your family and all that. That's going to happen. Medicine is going to become individualized.
Personalized.
It is depending on your DNA, what suits you best, what's best for you. That's how it's going to go. 20 years from now, I would bet, I won't be around, but I would bet on nanotechnology.
My God.
It's already there, because you already have So, for one thing, if you look
it
at...
will be too expensive.
No, you look at the 787, the Dreamliner.
Dreamliner, yes.
Or you look at the Tesla car, the body is made out of carbon fiber, which is part of nanotechnology, right? It's lighter, stronger than steel. That's why when you fly on the 787, you can, your ears don't pop, because no matter what height it is, they can keep it at 5,000 feet, because the body can take the pressure of the air. The other thing is, there are sunscreens today that have nanocrystals in them which reflect back the sunlight. So that's how the sunscreen works. So you're seeing lots of interesting things happening.
आपकी गर्मी आप ही को वापस.
It's simple.
आज मार्केट में किसी भी कंपनी को ग्रो करने के लिए बहुत सारा पैसा लगाना पड़ता है, बहुत सारी फंडिंग जनरेट करनी पड़ती है. एंड यू, as we like just discussed, that you bootstrapped the company for more than 20 years. क्या मंत्रास क्या थे, कैसे आपने bootstrapped किया?
So, the market was less competitive in those days. In all fairness, there weren't that many startups or people wanting to be entrepreneurs. First of all, we didn't know the word entrepreneur. We were businessmen. Right. It was either you were employed or you were in business. Times have changed. Now go-to-market has become very critical. And anything you start, there are at least 5, 6, 10 people who are also
already doing that.
In that area. Right. And so IP has become very critical. Lots of things. So I think that's why money becomes much more important today than it was at that time. Money, speed, getting a good team, making sure you retain them, giving options, creating wealth not just for one or two people.
For the entire community, for the entire...
Yeah. It's like, look at HCL in our time. You've got people like Shiv Nadar, Asim Premji and all who are really wealthy. But they have a whole lot of people who work with them who aren't that wealthy. Then you look at Infosys, where the wealth, while some people got really wealthy, wealth did get distributed to a number of other people. Right? I would think ideally, I think everyone in the company should have stock options. We tried that when we started TechSpan, which is the precursor to Headstrong, which was my next company. And we gave everyone options. And so when we sold in 2011, out of my 4,000 people in India, 2,000 people made 1 million rupees or more.
क्या बात है?
In fact, my driver made 50,000 rupees. So, it's sort of, we just spread it out to everyone. 50 people made $1 million in US. That was the whole idea, that you wanted everyone, and it was their company. They worked harder than I did to make the company. That's the way.
हर एक इंसान involved feel करेगा.
बिल्कुल, it was their company, उन्हीं की company थी.
तो इसको कैसे एग्जीक्यूट कैसे करते हैं? उसको सेल आउट करते हैं कि आप खरीद लो, इस प्राइस पे हम आपको दे रहे हैं, या फिर हम उसको गिफ्ट करते हैं अपने एम्प्लॉइज को?
No, it's two things. It's time based and performance based. So let's say you give 100 options, maybe 40 or 60 of them are time based, 40 or 60 of them are performance based.
All right.
And so time based happens if you spend time in the company. Performance based happens if you meet that performance. And if you want to be really nice, allow them to catch up in the next year. So if you miss your performance budget in 1 year and you make up 1 + 2 years in the second year, give them the whole thing.
All right. So what is the percentage that we should have the limit? Not more than this.
So normally after all, you will get funding from VCs and people like that. They normally don't like you to go, ideally 12 to 15%, maximum 20%.
Not more than that.
Yeah, it all depends on how old if the company is 20 years old, then the percentage is higher. If the company is younger, then the percentage is lower.
You cannot do that in the first year of your startup.
Yeah. No, in the first year you give it. In fact, you give it right away. The initial people get a certain, about 8-10% is given right then. And then as the company grows, you give more because the strike price is quite low for the options. And so they make a fair amount of money when they go forward.
Got it. What do you think? What is the major reason of failing startups? We see in the Indian market, 95% of the startups fail in their first 5 years, first 3 years, if we say. So what's the reason, and what advice would you give to those startups and the founders, aspiring founders also?
So a lot of them are because most startups have a great idea. But ideas are not what get you to form a company.
Correct.
80%, maybe even 90% is execution.
Execution, yes.
Right. So while great ideas may be there, you have to find a way to execute. And I think a lot of founders have to come to the realization that a lot of them may not be good CEOs. They may be really good CTOs. They may be really good, how should I put it, strategic people. They may be really good people who can talk about the idea, right? Marketing. But they're not good CEOs or good COOs operating. They should find people to do that. And egos come in the way.
मैं कर लूँगा, ऐसे कैसे नहीं कर सकता मैं? मुझे
That's
आता
a big
है,
problem.
मुझे पता है.
हाँ, मैनू पता है. You know that?
मैंने पता है.
But that's a big problem. And people have to remember that that's not. Ultimately, you're doing it. You have to realize why you're doing it. Are you doing it to become a powerful person? Are you doing it to make a difference to the world? And I think CEOs have to look at entrepreneurs have to make a difference. They don't have to be powerful. You know, people talk about the Oracle founder and all and how they are. But, you know, when you get to that size, you can talk about power. When you're small, you've got to think about how you're going to change.
I can totally relate to this. Yesterday or day before yesterday in the evening, I was having word with one of my employee, and I was telling her that the things that I do, the responsibilities that I have, my co-founders are way more smarter, way more intelligent, way more hardworking than I am. They manage people. They are into operations. One of them is a tech person, so he handles entire tech department. I have the responsibilities of connecting with people, networking with people, and like having a vision, doing sales for the company. So अगर मैं उनकी जगह पे होता और वो मेरी जगह पे होते तो हम दोनों बर्बाद कर चुके होते. ना मैं उसका काम कर पाता, ना वो मेरा काम कर पाता. तो हम right people, right things और उतना ही करो.
Lot of people have big egos. So what happens in a meeting when you have discussion, people disagree and they have a right to disagree. I don't want anyone to ever go out of the meeting and later if a decision is taken which doesn't work to say, I told you so. Because when you go out of that meeting, you are a soldier, you work to implement that the best way you can. That's the only way it has to work.
Correct.
You can't be there saying कि मैंने बोला था आपने नहीं किया.
Blame game.
Blame.
अरे मैं तो पहले ही कह रहा था तुम तो ये खराब कर दोगे.
You've got to be. You're a soldier ultimately in the meeting. Other thing I try to do in meetings is a 45-minute meeting. Lots of people have egos. They keep making points at each other. No one's discussing the meeting. I tell them very simply कि अभी 30 मिनट हो गए हैं. If we can't come to a conclusion in this meeting, then I will take the decision and everyone has to live with it. That invariably gets people back to, because they also want to be involved in the
constructive conclusion.
The other thing is when people come to me and say, I've got a problem, I ask them, do you want me to give you a solution?
Or you want me to just...
Or do you want me to give you advice? Because if you want me to give you a solution, then I will take the problem and I will run it. If you want me to give you advice, I'll give you advice. But then it's your decision. तूने लेना है नहीं लेना है आपकी मर्जी है.
Correct.
Right. 80% of the time they want advice. They don't want the solution.
आप बता दो हम देख लेंगे.
हाँ. Because it's there. Otherwise I'll usurp their decision and their domain or whatever. And so no one wants that.
Where do you see India in next 10 years? What do you think? India will emerge as the biggest business leader in the world and top 30 की लिस्ट में शायद हम इंडियंस को भी बहुत ज़्यादा देख पाएंगे या
I think you will. I think, again,
as Jeff Bezos also said, this is Indian century. 21st century is Indian.
So there was a PhD thesis, I think, written by a student at Stanford.
Okay.
I'll get his name back. He published a book called Tribes.
Tribes.
Yeah. where he talked about 7 great tribes over time and how each of them dominated the world. And the last tribe was the Caucasians who dominate. The Japanese had their chance, but they were very insular. They're just, they don't let outside influences come in. And then he said the Chinese, and he said by 2050, the Indians will dominate the world. That was his prediction about tribes and how they go up and down over time.
Back to the roots, is it? Because initially also we used to dominate.
Joel Kotkin is the guy's name.
Joel Kotkin.
Joel Kotkin. The book was Tribes. I don't think it's still being published, but a long time ago I read it.
So initially in ancient times, it is also said that we have dominated. We dominated the space. We dominated the world.
Not really the world, because the world was not connected the way there were the Jews in one part and, the Assyrians in another part.
There was no connectivity.
Yeah, there was less connectivity. But yeah, definitely, you go through Asia and you see the influence that India has, Buddhism, Hinduism. You go to Cambodia, see Angkor Wat.
I heard that at the Malaysian airport. I've not been there, but Malaysian airport is named after some Indian word, Swarn something. Yeah. And there is the whole statue of Samudra Manthan over there. Samudra Manthan is like...
You go to Japan, you go to Kyoto, there's this temple where they have 1,000 apsaras, wooden apsaras, who are protecting people. And they have these gods in front with Japanese faces, but their names are Vayu and, they're all Indian names. So culturally, religiously, we did dominate all of Asia at one time.
Right. Do you believe in astrology? That's a question, apart from our conversation, but just a random question. Do you believe in astrology?
Not really. I believe, and I've been told, हाथ वाथ तो पढ़ाते हैं सब इंडिया में. I have been told, anyone who read my hand, that your fate is in your hands.
The lines keep changing.
You will define your fate, kind of thing. That's what I believe in. I believe in that. I do believe in one thing, is that goodwill and good deeds invariably help you when you have a situation. Positive thinking helps you when you have a situation. But I don't believe in astrology.
Astrology. Perfect. Who are the 2 people or 3 people, or maybe the number is in your hand, who have inspired you the most and whom you do look up to?
So, from an inspiration point of view, the first person I'd mention is, there's a gentleman called Eric Clapton.
Eric Clapton.
Who died on Everest. Those days they used to climb without oxygen. 1935 he died. His body was just discovered. Came down in one of those glaciers and stuff like that. He was going up for the 3rd time to try and climb it. And someone asked him, why do you want to climb Everest? And he said, because it's there. To me, that is the inspiration. You want to do something because it's there. It's a challenge. That's why you want to do it. To me, that was... The other person I'd talk is my Nana, who was a scientist, a fairly well-known scientist. When I was young, I was born in Calcutta. We used to stay with them quite often. He used to take a walk around Victoria Memorial with his scientist friends. I used to hold his finger, and he'd be talking to them, and he'd tell me 2 + 3, 4 + 5. So when I got to nursery, I knew my math. So when the teacher used to write the math problem and draw those 2 lines on the board, I would give her the answer. So I used to get thrown out of math class as a disruptive influence and sent to Bible knowledge in Loreto Convent, Calcutta. I still remember that. But that, to me, when I look at a math problem, I assume I have a right to get 100% in a test. Any scientific math type thing. That's how I look at it, and I thank him for giving me that confidence and comfort, because I've always felt that that's something I understand. Right, that, and then I think my mother, how do I put it? She should have been a man. She was that much, she did her MBBS in 1945, then went to the Harvard School of Public Health, stuff like that. Real inspiration. She was the most logical person I have met, right? And to me that's important because I look at everything from a logic point of view. My wife sometimes tells me you're a computer.
Yeah.
But, my thing is, look, people worry. Everyone tells me, aren't you worried? Of course I'm worried. But I only worry if my worry can change the outcome of what I'm worrying about.
Wow.
If it can't, then I think about solutions that will change that outcome. So I try to look at, that's me. I try to look at things that way.
He just gave the solution to entire community of worried people. That if your worry can change something,
then worry about it.
Then worry about it.
Otherwise, why worry? Think of solutions. Think of possible ways to improve it, make it better. Do what will change something for the positive.
Today, sir, the youth of India is so aspirational because back then, if you must have seen, nobody wanted to become a millionaire or billionaire. In 1980s, the aspiration these days the people have because of instant gratification. You can say we want food, we can order it on Swiggy. We want to call somebody, we want to connect somebody, just one call away. That time you must have written so many letters to connect with people. So because of instant gratification, people these days want success at their doorsteps. The delivery of success should be done by Zomato guys. So what's your take and what's your suggestion to the aspirational youth of India?
So, one thing, in the old days, because taxes were so high, I remember one particular year between income tax and wealth tax was 104%. Now think of it, 104% of whatever you earned. And you paid wealth tax.
What? 104%?
There was a year when and wealth tax was paid not on what you earned, but if your value of your property went up, you paid wealth tax. Right? So remember in those days,
if I have earned 1 lakh rupees, I'll have to pay 1,04,000 rupees.
Well, income you pay 70%. But if you had a property that went up by 1 lakh, you still pay 40 lakhs. 40% of that
My God.
40,000 as tax. So if you had 1 lakh of income, 70 you paid as income tax and 40 you paid as wealth tax. So you had to get 10,000 from your assets to pay your tax.
There's so serious trouble.
No, so being a millionaire in those days meant that you were doing something outside the law. Black money, whatever. And so people didn't see it that way. That's why no one wanted to be a millionaire, because you didn't want to be seen as being a crook.
Crook, yes.
I think what the IT industry did, and in a way I think that's the biggest benefit the IT industry has got to this country, is that it showed that there is a legal way of creating wealth with your own effort.
Yes.
Right. Without having big investments or buying big machinery or having money to make money. Right. It was
hardcore efforts.
Yeah, it's, as I always put it, the assets walk out of the door every day when you're running a software company.
Correct.
Or a hardware company. Right. Mainly software. The assets walk out of the door every day. That, I think, changed people's mindset, because now people realize that their effort can create wealth.
Correct.
Which wasn't true earlier. Earlier, you needed money to create wealth.
Correct. So, what do you suggest them? Like, because there are failures too. The
hard
people.
work, I think. So, failures will happen. After all, not in every exam do you get 100%. So, I would think, first of all, don't give up on hard work. Second thing is, when you do something, you have to be passionate about it. Don't do something to make money. According to me, then you'll never make money. Do it because you believe in it, because you're passionate about it, you want to change the world, you want to do something that's going to make a difference to someone. The satisfaction you get will be worth more than money. Yes, money will come.
Do it for the impact.
Do it for the satisfaction you get. Do it for what you... Today, we're giving you the ability to choose. In our time, you didn't have it. My parents were very clear. The day you stop studying, you better find a job and stand on your own feet, because there was no way they could support you. Right. Today, that's not true. Today, we're telling children, be a good child, be a good human being. See how you can make a difference. Right. So the environment is different. We got to look at people differently. Now, I'm talking about the middle class and the upper middle class. Yes, the economically backward classes, they still got that pressure. And that is the problem we still have to solve in this country. I don't have the answer, but yeah, we still have to look at it.
All right. Last question of this entire interview. What is that one thing you think you'll be missing the most in your entire journey?
Yeah, so I was so busy working, and at that time I was in DCM, working for them, because for me it didn't matter. When I work, I'm fully involved. Doesn't matter whether I'm working for someone or for myself. I was not there when my first child was born.
Wow.
Emotional. Yeah, I wasn't there in the hospital. I was out working. I was also out working when we signed the Hindustan Computers Limited agreement. I couldn't make it to Lucknow. I was selling somewhere. So I got a classmate of mine, a very dear friend from college, who was in Lucknow to represent me at the signing. So if you see that photograph, there's Shivnada, there's Raman, and there's late Dadanbhai, who was my friend at that signing. He signed on my behalf. So, those are something that I wish I had been there, because now that's become an iconic photograph, and I'm not in it. What do you wish? And that question I was asked on my 60th birthday, which is 15 years ago. And if I had to live my life again, what would I change? I'd really like my parents to be alive. Other than that, I don't think I'd change anything else.
You're an emotional human being. You're so emotional. Nice. Right, sir. There are a few questions. Yes or no questions.
Anji.
Do big companies prefer to hire IITians over Tier 2, Tier 3 students?
Yes and no. Yes, because you want that kind of talent. No, because they feel that they won't stay there for too long. Big company, you need to keep an IITian. You need to make sure you give that person the right kind of work, the right exposure, the right responsibilities. And big companies find that difficult because they have a structure.
Correct.
We used to, when we were a startup at Headstrong, we used to recruit people from Infosys and all these companies, because 1 year they're doing the same job as someone from a degree 2, degree 3 college. Guys said, what am I doing here? So we'd pull them in, because we were a little more, how do I put it, high-end kind of jobs. We'd get people to talk to people on Wall Street, and guy felt a little more important.
Got it. Humility and empathy is the reason for the success of the great leaders.
Absolutely, yes.
Yes. Hiring interns, training them saves companies time and money if they join permanently, as they are experienced and understands company's process better.
100% I agree. That's how we grew HCL, straight out of college.
All right. Risk takers are the money makers. You gotta take risk to make more money.
Yes, but you can't build a company only on risk takers.
Yes, I agree to this, sir. Service companies take longer time to become profitable and are difficult to scale.
Not true.
Not true?
Service companies become profitable very quickly. Scaling is difficult.
Scaling is difficult.
It's not difficult. Scaling takes time. Product companies are the ones that are difficult to turn to profitability, because they're very high R&D costs.
Manufacturing costs, R&D costs, and so many costs.
Manufacturing to ज़्यादा नहीं है. R&D software I'm talking.
ठीक है. Wealthy people avoid media's attention. Yes, no.
Wealthy people
avoid media's attention. When was the last time you gave an interview to anybody?
I don't. I prefer talking to colleges, going to entrepreneurial cells in colleges and talking to students, because the idea is they are the ones you got to motivate to make tomorrow a better time.
Correct.
And my logic is simply, as I get older, I want more comforts. They are the ones who are going to provide me with tools that will make my life more comfortable.
Nice. Get it. If you were me, which was the question you must have asked?
Yeah, I think what made you an entrepreneur?
What made you an entrepreneur?
What made
sir?
me an entrepreneur?
Yes.
I decided who I was going to get married to when I was 19.
Oh, beautiful.
Right. I got married when I was 22. Right. So I took the biggest decision of my life with very little data, and it turned out to probably be the best decision I ever took. So
you just suggest people to marry
no,
early?
I don't. I just say, you've got to, look, on a lighter note, my thing is that every Indian, or most Indians, not every, are basic entrepreneurs. Because what do you need to be an entrepreneur? You need high frustration tolerance, you need high ambiguity tolerance. Now, anyone who is brought up in India has high frustration tolerance because nothing works here, Then look at the biggest decision of your life for most people. They take it with very little data. They depend on their team to tell them what to do. And by and large, they make it successful. I'm talking of arranged marriages. Now think of what could be more ambiguous for you than to marry someone you hardly know. Depend on your parents to tell you that the compatibility exists. And then you make it a success. So if you can do those two things, hey, you're an entrepreneur.
आपको लव मैरिज करनी है, ये क्लिप निकालिएगा और ये क्लिप अपने पेरेंट्स को दिखाइएगा and they'll agree for your love marriage. All right, sir. Thank you so much for being like so humble and so gentle and answering all those questions. Thank you so much. I want you all to write your comments, whatever your questions are. If in case I get a chance, तो अगली बार भी मैं इनसे आपके relevant questions जरूर पूछूंगा. Thank you so much.
Thank you.